The Halloween Door is without a doubt one of the best episodes to come from the show post the Q5/network interference, which if you want to know more about, check out my video on the Real Ghostbusters, the bad episodes. This is also the only primetime special the series ever did. As the Halloween Door aired in primetime, there were far less restrictions on this compared to any other episode that was produced for ABC, and Joe Straczynski, of course, took advantage of this as much as possible.
Because the people at the network were different than the network people for the daytime stuff, I could get away with stuff that I couldn't get away any other time. I was just lined up all the things that I can't do over here and said, let's do all those over here.
During the commentary for this episode, Joe Straczynski talks about this being his last hurrah with the Real Ghostbusters, even though he had several episodes in the season after this, most notably Janine, You've Changed. Well, to be fair, that one was written by Michael J. Straczynski, so who knows who that is.
But it's close. Close enough. They misspelled J.
Maybe those episodes were all written beforehand and it took a while for them to actually get produced. That would make some sense, as JMS has said one of his conditions on returning to write for the show was making the episode Janine, You've Changed. But let's actually open up this Halloween door here, and right from the get-go, things are a little different. The Halloween door had a special intro cut together using footage from some other episodes, this special, and most interestingly, it even had a few shots from the original pitch pilot made to sell the show. You don't get any shots in there that really showed the proto-Real Ghostbusters, but you do get a good shot of the oddly blank-looking no-ghosts that appeared in it. But I think something particularly of note about this intro is it names the show The Real Ghostbusters, not Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters as the show was at this point. I am quite certain that's because this special was the most involved Joe Straczynski was with any episode after he'd left as story editor, and we know how he feels about Slimer and putting his name in front of the title.
When they brought Slimer to the foreground and made it Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters, the ratings dropped and the attention dropped. And they were there to see the Real Ghostbusters based on the movie. The movie wasn't called Slimer. If the show was all Slimer, it's nothing.
So yeah, everywhere on this special, there's no Slimer and, which is really nice. But one thing I do want to mention here is that when ABC rebroadcast this episode on Saturday morning, they for some reason didn't use this title card that was used during primetime, but had a super generic looking one made. Also, as far as I know, there wasn't any re-editing done to this special when it was rebroadcast on Saturday morning, so that means all these things that they could only do in this special because it was airing during primetime were okay for Saturday morning, as long as it wasn't first produced for Saturday morning. Ugh, damn it, networks are stupid. Which makes me especially happy that part of this episode's plot is actually making fun of the network.
Again, I took the opportunity here to have some fun with those who give us the notes at the network about the morning show. Well, as well as taking a shot at the network, let's make fun of those parent groups, who think that Halloween shouldn't exist.
And of course, these days, we have the internet equivalent to those parents groups that like to be offended about everything, and it's called Tumblr. Whoops, I shouldn't joke about that. I probably offended someone. This was the most money the network put into the animation of any Real Ghostbusters episode, and it shows. By far, this is the nicest animated episode of the series. I really wish something that looks this nice could have came out before the interference and when we still had Lorenzo Music and Laura Summer. But we can't have it all. Oh well, as this is a Straczynski episode, maybe Coulier Vankman won't be as stupid as usual.
After our gig at the junior high this afternoon, I'm taking Lynn Stacy to a party at Donald Trump's place.
Never mind. Of course, that's where Coulier Vankman would be going. Topical! Still! For some reason!
Even Slimer's going. He's been working all week on a costume. Made it himself. Wait a minute. Slimer's a ghost, right?
Right? I'm asking. I'm not really sure.
Slimer?
Yes, boss?
Don't move.
Peter! Oh, I have been like a slime.
Yes! 5 years I've waited to do that!
I do really like this bizarre sequence of events here, with Peter sliming Slimer and him waiting 5 years to have done that back to him. It's especially accurate as the movie did come out 5 years before this episode. This is also one of the few times you see Coulier Venkman about to go on a date for a couple of reasons. One, of course, being the network's silliness, and second, it's Coulier Venkman, who actually wants to date that doofus. Slimer supposedly ruins this for Peter, but really, I doubt it would have taken him much longer to end this date poorly.
I'm Nim Stacy. I'm supposed to meet Peter here.
Oh, did somebody sneeze?
Creep!
And here we are, a bunch of fluffernutters. Wait! I love you!
Why, we've hardly met.
Slimer, you're dead.
Oh, good observation, Peter.
I said it before when talking about this episode, but Slimer just sarcasmed out dummy Peter here. I can't help but take that as a comment to the effect of, Venkman, you've changed.
I want you to help me get rid of Halloween.
Surely you don't like monsters and ghosts and such.
I can't believe Boris Karloff and Peter Lorre would turn on Halloween like this. So the Karloff-looking guy here is named Dr. Crowley.
Here I have a character named after Aleister Crowley, a leading Satanist. And no one seemed to notice this.
He betrayed the network.
I am the chairman of Citizens United Against Halloween and lots of other stuff we don't like.
What's all this other stuff you're against?
All comics, most television, toys, many books, but mostly Halloween. It's fantasy. Not good for kids at all. It serves no purpose.
Wrong. Magic. Mystery. They're important. Halloween is part of a tradition that goes back centuries.
So yeah, Crowley here is a thinly veiled representation of extremist parent groups that complain about everything and were saying Halloween shouldn't exist. Children shouldn't be into dark things and instead should be shielded from everything. And that makes them always turn out perfect. Egon is pretty much JMS's voice in this episode, speaking against such overprotective silliness.
According to legend,
Forgot to mention, we're against legends, too.
eating too many candy bars isn't good for you either.
Anymore?
It's in his socks, Slimer.
Nice callback.
Either you tell me what you're working on, or I'll tell Slimer you got a cupcake in your socks.
Trick or treat!
In your face.
Here I could be mean to kids, but I really couldn't do it in the morning show.
I love that, but man is that silly that saying in your face to a child is so extreme and had to be saved for prime time.
2,000 years ago, October 31st was the end of the old year, and the ancient Celtic priests, called Druids, held a celebration. It was the birth of the festival we now call Halloween.
The Ghostbusters really go all out when they do presentations at schools. I mean, look at this shit. None of these stupid little yuppie larvae are gonna be chanting for He-Man when they get a show like this. Hell, they even go as far as crossing the streams and murdering them all. Nothing's too good for the kids.
When the sun goes down and the night grows cold and the wind is whistling through the trees, touching old magic, touching old magic, we call it Halloween.
This is also the only time there are musical numbers like this in episodes where the characters are actually singing. And the voice actors did actually sing the lyrics, and I get the feeling Buster Jones was probably one of the best at it, as Winston gets a lot of solo parts in the song.
Can you feel the magic moving? See the moon shining bright.
The voice actors are accompanied here by Brian O'Neill from the Bus Boys, who of course sang Cleaning Up the Town on the original Ghostbusters film. This episode is also Brian O'Neill's only real acting credit, as he voiced the main villain, the Boogaloo, who shockingly sings a song in this episode. These songs were also written by JMS, and they're pretty damn catchy, especially when he'd never written lyrics before.
And they said, well, who's going to write these? Well, I'll write the lyrics. I said, have you ever written lyrics before? No. But I figured, I can learn to be incompetent in whole new areas now.
Crowley and his assistant Fairweather stole a PKE meter earlier from the Ghostbusters to finish their anti-Halloween machine, which, of course, they bring out in a very Frankenstein-like sequence, and it vaporizes anything to do with the holiday. Guess it's a good thing for Sam Hain that he's taking this October 31st off in the containment unit.
I am Halloween.
It's also a good thing all these kids were all wearing something under their Halloween costumes, or this special would have had to air even later in the night.
You see, Fairweather, not a Halloween soul.
What the?
What's happening?
Just what we were hoping for. We needed a mortal to open the door to the other side, and you were the one. You forgot the first rule of fanatics. When you become obsessed with the enemy, you become the enemy.
Nice touch.
Look, if it's a real Ghostbusters episode that I like, I've got to hear Lorenzo music somewhere. Obviously, this is a take on extremists, only making things worse, and when you try to completely hide and ignore something, it'll usually tend to come back, and the situation will now be uglier than it ever was.
Those things, they're everywhere!
And specifically in this case, trying to shield children from Halloween and horror is stupid.
So you're saying this is like, bad, right?
Okay, this is one of those lines I can see Lorenzo Music saying in his dry delivery, and it just coming off as Peter being sarcastic about this horrible situation, like the line is no doubt intended. But with how Coulier delivers it, it just sounds like Peter is a doofus who legit isn't sure if things are bad or not. I'll refer you once again to a line that both actors performing due to ABC's never-ending stupidity, just to show how different Peter's lines can come off based on the delivery.
Don't say it, Egon. Let me. We're in trouble. Oh boy, are we in trouble.
Don't say it, Egon. Let me. We're in trouble. Oh boy, are we in trouble.
You know you better believe me. Just look around, look around, look around, look around. The Boogaloo is back in town.
Who's that? Boogaloo destroys a lot during his musical number here, so yeah, this is definitely another time where people are dying, but as long as it's kind of glanced over, it's apparently okay, which Real Ghostbusters did use a lot to its advantage. In Times Square, we see an ad for Sanny. Guess Chinese bootlegs were really popular that Halloween in New York. Also, enjoy Bloody? Is that supposed to be bloody? Kinda weird either way, I suppose. Stay Puffed, what are you doing here? Really, what is he doing here? He's been an ally during most of his appearances in Real Ghostbusters and should be in the containment unit right now. Of course, Stay Puft just blew up in the movie, so he probably shouldn't have been in the cartoon at all. Who cares? Shut up!
The president has declared a state of national emergency. Repeat, do not go outside.
We were precluded a lot from doing fake newscasts where they would say we break into this for an important announcement because they were afraid that people might think it was a real newscast, even though the people were, well, drawn. So I figured, well, in prime time now, I actually can do that.
They would think that an animated newscaster might scare children.
Because they think it was real.
Yes. 2,000 years ago.
I'd say that shocks me, but pointed glasses are scary.
The
Halloween deal has been broken, so now we're back to stay.
2,000 years ago, the Earth was infested by demons, but the Druids struck a deal. The worst of the demons would go off to the Netherworld on one condition.
They wanted us to remember them.
Halloween. If we don't restore Halloween and send these creatures back where they came from before midnight, the contract is broken permanently.
And wouldn't they want to break out all their buddies? The containment system!
Huh, okay, Stay Puft just jumped ahead on the script, I guess.
Janine!
It's nice that Straczynski still always wrote in the Janine-Egon relationship stuff whenever he returned for episodes like this, and you get to see Janine busting a little. Very unlike him, though, is Slimer with a proton pack. Maybe he didn't write that and it was just added in, though, as it only lasts a couple seconds. But even those couple seconds were too much, and the containment unit explodes in very much the same manner as it did in the movie.
You looking for me, fleshheads?
That's offensive. To someone, probably, I don't know.
If we can get to the machine, we might be able to reverse it and restore Halloween.
Hey, Boogaloo! You're ugly and your mother dresses you funny.
That's cute. I hate cute.
Ray?
Peter, what?
I can see your house from here.
Okay, if you ever wanted to hear me give praise to a Coulier-Venkman line, that one right there is the closest that I sorta can kinda get. Lords of Music would have done it better!
Ghostbusters! My name's Emma. I live next door. Let me help you guys. Let's get him!
You betrayed me, Joe Straczynski. You betrayed me. Alright, there is a bit of a point to this, which again is with the theme of the episode, and that is that children shouldn't have to be fearful of scary things and to be shielded from them.
And what do you want?
Trick or treat! You're funny!
Halloween is more than pumpkins, black cats, and trick-or-treating. It's about kids rediscovering wonder.
That's why we play monsters, so we won't be afraid of monsters anymore. We take back the night once a year because it belongs to the children.
This means they've restored Halloween and broken the brokenness of the contract, meaning that the Boogaloo's gonna blow and everything is 100% safe as long as you aren't scared. So, New York is once again safe for children to run around in by themselves without any shoes on.
Hey, I gotta go because my dad's taking me trick-or-treating.
Our first primetime special, and they decided we're not going to do that again.
This is a fun episode and a great celebration of Halloween. I particularly like Egon and Ray's speeches about it, and you can tell JMS had fun with it too. Slimer is shoved into the background instead of being the focus as was prevalent on the show at this time. It's interesting seeing musical numbers in Real Ghostbusters, as that never happened before or after this episode, which also makes it a bit special. This is probably also one of the best episodes for Buster Jones as Winston, as he often didn't get a lot. Like always, though, even with the episodes that are a bit better than usual in this era, I just tend to think about how they would have been better if the Q5 debacle had not happened and we still had the original cast intact. I always feel like the show is a bit at odds with itself and trying to rise above what it's become in the few good episodes that happened after the interference, but the Halloween door is probably the highest that it ever got.
This was a fine way to end my run on that show and to walk away feeling, you know what, I showed them that I was right about how to do the show. We came back, I got to do it my own way, go out on a high note, basically, do large to the network and the sensors.